Unless you can hear me right now. I just saved some changes. This, oh wow, you really can hear me? Oh my gosh. Give me one more yes if you can hear me. I just saved some settings, so hopefully. Mm, wonderful. Oh my gosh. And I don't even know which thing I changed and saved the change, made it work, but I am so happy I'm here again. Well, welcome everybody. Um, from what I can tell, is there maybe one or two people who've never been to class before? But it looks like I recognize all of you. But if you're new in class today, let me know. Well, thanks, Katia or Katia. I like Katia, so I'll probably keep saying that. Oh, I hope so, Aurora. Although even last year I had problems, but we'll see. And I'm hoping to. Oh, okay. I think I've seen your name someplace else then. Is it Mary Atelier? Atelier? Am I close? Oh, Sherry, I know I've seen yours, probably seen you. It's because I've seen your names in the online tatting classes. So, and we have some people who have not been here for a long time. Aurora, and I don't know if Ninetta's still here. I know they started way back when I began teaching. Call you Mary as in Mary. Okay. So I am going to try and really bring in and do beginning things for you new people as well as add information for the people who've been here before. Oh, new there last year, Mary. Okay. Well, I actually started with the online tatting classes years ago, I think in about 2000, I'm not sure, four. And I was off and on, I was in the classes, but I actually started tatting in the early 1970s. And I had inherited my grandma's tatting shuttles. A lot of you have heard this before about my background, but I'm going to give it again for not only the new people who are here, but there'll be probably new people. A lot of people watch the classes on the replays. So um, I was 22, but in my early 20s then, and I had two very young children, boys, and I still have them. I shouldn't say that past tense. And I used to watch my grandmother tatting all the time. And well, every summer when we went up to visit them, it was our summer vacation. But she never showed me how, and she always worked with a little teeny like size 80 thread. So I never learned how. So I got out the shuttles, and like I said, my early 20s, early 70s, and um, taught myself how to tat, but boy, did I ever have trouble. I was going from like the old Learn Coates and Clark's Learn How to Tat books, and I only found one or two others back then. But you know, when you're not watching it, oh, Nanetta, no sound yet? Oh, Nanette, I hope your sound comes back. Um, well, I'm so glad you're still here. You hadn't said anything for a while in the chat, so I wasn't sure you were still here. Um, so anyway, that's when I started tatting. I started designing a couple years after that, and because I needed patterns for the beginner students I was teaching in the craft shops around. And so I finally got the flip. That was the hard thing. It's hard to show it in books. So in about 2010, I think it was, I had been attending off and on attending Georgia's classes, and so I was talking with some of the other students in the class, and we thought it would be really nice to start a design class. And I said, well, I'll do it if you're interested, because my background also includes, I think I was like 40 when I went back to school because I was so interested. I had observed a class where they were doing computer drawing with Corel Draw. And I saw a printout and I just fell in love with the computer drawing. And I had the instructor happened to be the director of a brand new um, program that was starting at Front Range Community College in the fall. And she said, come to my little, I'm having a get together to explain what the classes are about. And so, oh, great, Mavis. You still use Corel, Sherry? It's a good program. It's a really good program. Um, and I enrolled in her multimedia technology course. It was supposed to be a 1 year course, and you got a certificate. And so, me, I was working full time, so I started taking classes, one each semester until the end. About 4 years in, I said to my husband, I need to finish up. I had one more semester of about 3 classes. And multimedia technology, what we used was the Adobe suite. So I learned um, computer drawing, web design, Photoshop, imaging. I used Adobe Illustrator, also desktop publishing. And oh, yay, Nanetta. And then after I finally got my certificate in 2005, I applied to be the web assistant at Front Range Community College. And I worked as the web assistant for 2 years. And then they came to me and asked if they had let go of the director of the program and said, could you finish out her classes for the year? And so I did. So I did that for a couple of years. So that's where my design, uh, I've been designing since for years. I started doing crafts, sewing and crochet when I was 8, sewing on my mother's sewing machine. She taught me to crochet. And so I've always been interested in crafts and done a lot of reading about everything. So I had a background, and I had at one time in the late 70s gone back and taking a year of art classes at the local community college in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I'm originally from. And but then one of my sons was sick and all, so I never got back. So I had a semester of like watercolor and a color class, photo using a 35 millimeter camera and developing black and white photos. So this is all my yeah, I'm very eclectic background, Mary, and I worked in craft stores for years and fabric stores as a supervisor in a few different fabric stores. And in 1990, we had moved to Denver. So anyway, that's enough about me for now and my background. But that's how I came to design and came to start the classes. And so in 2010, I had asked Georgia, I said, could I teach a design class on your Chatsy um, platform? And she said, sure, that'd be great. So I did teach for about I think it was about 10 years, when we were just working in a chat, the Chatsy chat, um, before with the videos. And Aurora was there back there. Nanetta was one of the first people to come. And Ninetta and Moose Can, I learned so much myself from them as much as I felt I was teaching the students. They had such a good knowledge and everything that they really added to the classes and helped me out. And it was kind of nice. I always thought video would be nicer, but in the chat box, we tended to go back and forth a lot more. We did a lot of, and I'd like to do that, get that going again with helping each other with our patterns too, troubleshooting problems, suggesting alternatives. And oh, you lived in Littleton. Well, when we moved out here in 1990, I lived in Longmont. And now and then I lived in Loveland, and now I'm in Greeley, which, for those people of you who don't know Colorado, I'm very far north. I'm only about 2 hours from the Wyoming border. And I guess that's about it for now. Let's talk a little bit about class. And I did show you this. I don't know if any of you some of you may have seen part of this before. Um, I am going to be doing classes like I've done before, throwing in a lot of design theory. We'll be talking about the design process itself. We'll be talking about the elements and principle design. Oh, I only did one tatting book, Katia. Actually, it was back in the early 90s. I think my first publication was in 1990, either 2 or 5. Oh, you are. And, for years I keep telling people that I'm going to be redoing the book, and I have it in progress. And I just, well, the last 10 years have been a little rough with the things that have changed in my life, and I've moved like 4 times, and so I never have gotten my book finished. And it was just a little. I used to make copies of it on a copy machine, and then I'd go home and collate it and staple it together and mail it out. So anyway, hopefully, maybe this will be the year I finally get it done. No promises about that. But now I lost my other train of thought. I tend to go out on little side trips, and I guess the first thing before we do anything else, my classes always used to run over an hour. And once I get talking, it's hard for me to stop. There's always more I want to say. So, to begin with, I would like to know your preferences. Do you prefer just an hour class? Would you like to go an hour and a half? I know if you can't stay for the whole time, you can always watch the replay and catch up. And I'm just wondering what all of you think. Um, if we went an hour and a half, I would probably try to do about 45 minutes where I hit a new topic, especially for the new beginners. Design elements, yes, we'll really get into the design elements. Um, and I'll talk about that in just 1 second. And then go into some things in more detail for the students who've been here before, those with more knowledge. Um, so that's what I'm thinking for this year. Never too long for you. Okay. Open to anything all once. Okay. Well, I probably will probably go at least an hour and 50 minutes, sometimes an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So aim for an hour with a half-hour buffer. That sounds great, Arlene. And Mary, you're open. Um, Sounds good to you, Aurora. Okay, we'll go with that. And I'll go back to what I showed you in the on my down shot in just a bit. Well, maybe I'll just flip on it now for those of you who didn't see it, because this is, okay, thanks, Katia. I will continue watching the old YouTube videos to what you've done before. Boy, I was new at doing videos, and I don't think some of them are very good. Hopefully, I'll do better this year. 1:15 sound good to you. Um, Now 1:15. Oh, an hour and 15. I was thinking 15 minutes after one. You mean an hour and 15 minutes? Okay. So we're all in kind of the same area then. Okay, so I'm going to switch you down to my down shot. Some of you will know what I showed, and I'm wondering if you will give me an idea of what you possibly think this could be if you haven't seen it before. So let me flip down. I think all of you can see that pretty good. If you have any idea what this might be, I know a few ideas about what I think it looks like, and it doesn't look like what it's supposed to end up being. That's the thing with designing. It can be as frustrating as it is to me an exciting adventure, a journey. Yes, that's what I think it looks like right now, a snail. Yes, Arlene, it is going to be a bird. Yep, it's my bird, Katia. And what I had done is worked um, the wing first, and then I started going around, and I'm kind of have a fish swimming. That's what my brother said. It looked like a fish to him, and it does. It looks like a bicycle. Wow, now I didn't see that. This is what's interesting too. We all see different things when this is why I get sidetracked because things that come up in the class sends me off on another little trip. Um, we all see different things. And one of the things you can do with all your pieces, I call these all my pieces parts. There's one, there's a bunch of them in here. Some of you might recognize that on the top a little. This is just a little snippet that came from my lamb's ear. And as you can see, I've been started keeping things in baggies. Did start putting them on index cards like Tammy does, but for now I just have this on here. But yes, one of the things, a bicycle with a tail. I think this shows you how you can definitely keep all your little pieces and scraps. Not only design elements, there are elements of design in here. There are 5 to 7 actually design elements. And elements it gives emotions. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Nanetta. And I think one of the things from designs we try for, and any artist, is emotion. And some of that comes from a design looking more like it's moving or it has movement to it. And that all has to with design elements. We'll be taking the design elements step by step. Design elements are things like lines, shapes, and shape is a big one in tatting. Color, texture. And yes, besides the tactile texture of feeling it, there's ways you can make if you look, some patterns are more open work, some are more denseness and open work. Give visual texture to your work, as well as a lot of other things. Colors have emotion, no, not values, but we'll get into color too. And it's all brought together, but the elements are the building blocks. They're the shapes, and shapes are made with lines. And then you're going to add maybe color or look at your textures. One of the things about knowing them is they're good for troubleshooting. If your piece just is not feeling right or looking right, you can think through the different elements of design and how you've used those building blocks. They're the building blocks of the design. And how you use them is affected by the principles of design. So there's design elements, the building blocks, and there's principles, what you use to manipulate your shapes and your colors and your lines. Um, and those are things like creating a pattern, could be repetition of shapes to give it consistency. And if you've got something that you repeat, it can become a pattern. And a pattern can also have a rhythm to it. And there's things like emphasis, which includes a focal point. There's so many different things that you can use, scale of different elements, proportions. And that's all things that as we're designing, I will be going into each of those things and teaching you more. So we've got the design elements and design principles, and then there are your tatting elements itself. So we'll be using the word elements for two different things. One is design elements, and the other is your actual tatting elements. Your base element, of course, and I'll show you, it are your rings and chains. And these rings do not, oh, there's a chain on the end of that one. Now, this is one of the things that is great to have. As a designer, I suggest you start doing things like this. This is a size 20 thread, and so I have started, they're not labeled on my card yet, but it goes from the smallest number down here. I think that's a ring of 4, all the way up to a mid-size here. And I kept adding, I think I just added one double stitch on each side of the ring. And I kept going all the way up to, and I can't even remember, so I'll have to get that fixed for you. But this, I've actually got it. I don't know if you can see right there how it's gotten dirty. That is reusable tape. So I can actually take this off, and let me pull up the small one. And I'll show you one of the things I've been doing with my bird is I could say, well, I'm going to actually, instead of just using that, I'm going to pull out this little sample because, and there, oh, this one. I looked at this one first and I'm thinking, I made a lamb once upon a time, and it was made of flowers, and I had part of a flower right by its ear. I think this is a piece from that. I can get it out like that. And I held this up and I'm thinking, could I put a flower on the top of this bird's head? Now, my bird is very, my brother, I call it quirky birds. They're kind of quirky, they're not realistic. I want them to be fun and colorful. And my brother said it reminded him kind of Dr. Seuss style. And I actually, this little part here, for some reason, I can see this. This is the bird's beak. This shape here makes me think of a Tweety bird style bird. And then, of course, this looks like a snail. Um, but I can hold these up. And I thought, boy, this flower on this bird would be way too big. And then I have another little piece here. I probably should have taken these out before I started. That I looked at these two little rings and I thought, oh, maybe those two little rings. If I look at just those two little green rings in there, I thought, oh, those are a good size ring to be on the bird. And it's similar to the one I started in the middle. And on this bird, when I got to this point, I wanted funny hair, so I tried a couple different things. And the beaks. When I got to here, I knew that I wanted to start over and redo some things, but I wanted to try a little tail feather first. So all I did, instead of continuing down, and this is time for me to talk about designing, um, both in cotton size 20 and metallic size 20. Yes, Arlene, both of them. We're going to talk about sketching and drawing too. And the sketching we talk about for designing is it's called rough, just like a rough draft of a paper you're writing or something. It always needs a lot of fixing and changing and experimenting of words to get what you want. And that's what designing is. You have to have patience. You have to, you know, have other things. But this is where I started with my bird. Now, this is quite a finished, nice looking drawing. And I have been drawing for quite a few years. When you're doing a rough sketch, Irish tatting designer, individual pieces of work, yes, definitely. But when I started, I was drawing, whoops, take a look at that. Does that it's on an envelope. And yes, real artists eat well, Mavis, that's the thing. We're doing rough sketching. And I'm going to show you, you use shapes that help you. Everything out in the world, everything you look at and see inside, outside, everywhere is built of simple shapes. Your rectangle, your square, and then rectangles, triangles, circles, or ovals. And we'll be doing some of that and practicing that. And the thing is, creativity and talent, creativity we're born with. And a lot of us, when you're, well, we'll get into that later. But anyway, you can learn. You can learn design. You can learn to sketch at least. Look at that. That's not anything beautiful. This down here is like scribble. I started out rough and hearts that are just kind of, you know, that looks really messy. I've got so many really bad, messy drawings, but it doesn't matter. When you're sketching, you're getting an initial idea down, and it's for yourself. If somebody else doesn't recognize it, fine. If your sketches come out looking like this bird is, um, or whatever it's going to turn out to be, fine. But this is what I started with, and I kind of got this part. As you can see, it's not even the same size. But like I said, I got to that part so far, and that's where I decided to just cut over. So I just tatted over to here and tatted over there and went out to try a tail. Now this tail, my brother said it looks like the bird's got a fish that took a bite of his tail and his hand been caught. So, and it does. It looks like a fish on a fish line, especially if you put it upside down. But and because it has a little tail, because I just cut my little pruny leaf off after I did it. But I wanted a long floppy tail. I probably put 3 of those on there. So I never completed and got the big rounded shape like this. But this is going to be my project to start with. And yeah, thanks, Sherry. That was my thought too. Several of them. Um, and I'll be working on this as we go along. Now, another thing, I can't remember if it might have been you, Katia, that, or maybe, oh, who is it named? It starts with a J. Who might have, Janelle, no. Anyway, who mentioned leaves as a topic. Bird of paradise tale. And so I've been working and playing. Oh, this can show you. And this is one of our first thing about supplies. I really want you, I know a lot of people, like you say, I can't draw, I can't sketch, but to get ideas down, if only you know what the picture looks like, is all that is necessary to start with. I mean, look at that. Does that really look, well, it kind of looks like a leaf, but you know, this one here, what I'm going to try and do now. There, I started doing some. Yes, we did. Yep. And so that's the other thing. I want to suggest that each of you start designing a bird. It can be realistic or it can be. I love the quirky birds, and boy, they're all over. You look at embroidery and art journalists and quirky birds are all the thing now. And with leaves, I wanted to try and get more movement into them and expression. So I followed some videos um, because my drawing is really, and sketching is really um, not professional. I know through the years I'm getting better. And when I really work on something, I can get better. But these are some of the things I've started on. Okay, so you'll see what I'm working on. Copy paper. To me, copy paper tends to be the way I go. So as far as supplies, copy paper, you'll want a notebook. It can be a binder, a 3-ring binder. It can be a just a regular spiral notebook like this to take notes in, just like a school notebook. Um, I do drawing if you happen to have a sketchbook. Sorry about that. I've got my phone on because one of my brothers is sick. This is it's really big and you can't see how big, but I do have sketches all the way through it. Oops, not all the way through it, but let's see. There we go. Flowers. Oh, there's some birds that I drew a long time ago. And you'll notice I write notes all around. And I do that on my copy paper ones even as usually as I go, but I haven't, well, as you can see on the bird, I have started writing down some um, instructions just for the very beginning of here. Oh, I know when I was showing my bird something I thought about too. When you have a piece like this, we've been looking at it this way, but what if you turn it this way and look at it, or this way and look at it? Now, what does it look like? I hadn't realized, but I think it almost looks like a cat, which makes me think I have a little thing of an embroidered cat if I can find it. Oh, any of you see the cat? I do too. He's only 2 years younger than I am, so he's 74 now, and he thinks he may have COVID. And unfortunately, in the last 2.5 years, he's had an aneurysm, an aortic aneurysm that got fixed, luckily, and had a mini stroke. So I am. Yes, you can see the cat. And look at this little cross stitch pattern. Doesn't that look similar? I'm a magazine person, so ideas, we'll talk about finding ideas and resources and all of that at some point too. There's a lot we're going to talk about. So today's kind of an overview. So yeah, look at your pieces, your scrap pieces from all different angles. You never know what you might see. So, and that's why you keep all those pieces too. And it's always best if you write down your notes, like so you can have a nice, use them for stitch counts even and sizing, and something that doesn't work for one design may be the perfect thing for a totally different design. So you want to keep all your pieces, you want to document everything. And it's even good to photograph. I usually just take a picture with my camera and save it to use rather than scanning it. Sometimes I'll scan them on the computer, and sometimes I just take a photo with my camera. And, then you can print it out and use it too. A lot of times when I get to this stage, like I am, I started this just the other day, just playing around. And look at this. Look at this. I mean, if that's not ugly for a bird, drawing doesn't have to be, your sketches don't have to be pretty. You're getting ideas. This guy, I think I do want to make. And this is similar to the one I'm working on. One of the things I found with this guy is I was really trying, hoping I could do something all in one piece, but all in one, like round, without, I like to make things in one piece, like my heart's desire. You start at one end, you can go around and end at one end. But I feel I'm going to have to make the wing on this as a separate piece that gets added on with the rest. I haven't figured out a way to get around here and have both a division there and one there. And how do I get from place to place? I haven't figured out the path yet of tatting. Yes, Sherry, we'll talk about that too. What others have done is very important. The candy bird, something from a different tatted piece might inspire you for what you're working on. Yes, yes, definitely. But I will sometimes get on the computer, could be done in Word or like Inkscape or Word, where I would, I think this was actually scanned in and I cut it out. So I would go online and I would copy this and paste it, like maybe 4 on a page, or I might just use the outline. And start doing different things. This I all just did by hand, and you can see I've got fat ones, I've got this funny one, I got one with skinny long legs, and there's the 3 tail feathers. Um, and that one's a really kind of a, I don't know what, ugly duckling. But I was thinking about, doing a design on the outside of it. So just try all kinds of things. Just let your imagination go and sketch things down. Brainstorming a list is always good too. So, and we'll be talking about that. Notice this shape is almost like a paisley design. You've got you can start with a round head and an oval body. And then you just start working on it and fixing the outlines. And I'm going to actually do that so you can watch me as I go. That's one of the things we'll start with. And then, let's see, let me get my little list, make sure of what else oh, this is something. One of the things, if you draw in pencil, any pencil works. A plain old number 2 pencil like you get, that's what this is too, just a regular pencil. I really like working with mechanical pencils because you don't have a point they have to keep sharpening. And I usually buy, I think the 0.5 rather than, no, the 0.7, I think is the smallest one. Sometimes you can get mechanical pencils in 2 different sizes. You want something that you're going to be sketching very lightly to begin. Well, let me just give you a sample of what I'm talking about. When you're drawing a bird, first you might think of just a circle. This is a sketch, very light, very sketchy, and it's got a body kind of like this, and it has basically a rectangle with a tail and 2 legs coming down. And then you can slowly work it in to put a little beak on this guy, give him an eye right there, maybe some eyelashes, have to have picos, little hair feathers. And then you start working whatever you want your tail to be. And there's all kinds of wings. A wing can look just like that, you know? So you can really personalize what you're doing. I want to get a couple colors in. So I'm looking at maybe like this one, rather than coming down like I was trying to do with different pieces on my first bird. Maybe it'd be easier if I can go and just start changing colors right in here for something. But you don't, when you start tatting, things don't always come out the way you expect. And that's another thing you have to think about. Sometimes you have to go with what's happening. Now, when I use my copy paper, I sketch on, I have one that's just your typical wooden one. And I think that came from a dollar store. This plastic one that I really like, I don't think you can see that it's even got ruler markings on both sides. It's clear plastic, and I just clamp my stuff on that. I draw on that a lot when I'm sitting around rather than getting out my sketchbook. In fact, I do this way more than any other way. Um, You can also work with grid paper. You might want some grid paper. And working in pencil sketching, a good eraser that's not going to smudge black and leave. And you especially don't want a real soft. Drawing pencils can come in really soft, and they're real smudgy and charcoal, and you don't want that. And you want an eraser that when you draw a line, it's going to erase clean and nice. Another little tip about pencil drawings is when you start using them, one of the things I have found is, I mean, you don't want to layer to keep checking if it's working out, lay it directly on a pencil drawing. That pencil will smudge off. Now, just recently, where did I set my little box? Oh, here it is on the bottom. I came across, I was using plastic pages, but it's hard to, if you've got your sheet in a plastic page, if you want to write notes on it, it's hard because you can't reach underneath and, you'd have to pull it out each time. So what I recently found was some transparency film. I don't even know if I got it off of it's HP supply store but it's for use with an inkjet. You can even print on it if you want to. Um, these pages are nice. They have a little sticky tape so you can stick it down on something, but they do have a little bit of a beige cast to them. But if I just clip that, see there on top of there, now I've got my surface protected so I can compare my piece to the drawing without getting pencil. And yet I can easily just lift up the bottom of a piece of acetate or whatever you have. I mean, even saran wrap could work, but it would be hard to keep on and messy and taking it off and on. But this works really nice. And then you can add notes or whatever, and just put it back down. So this is something I have found is a good supply to have. Let me see, I went through the pencil. I usually always keep a little ruler. Now, as far as you need your basic tatting kit. I haven't stopped to ask. You see the cat. Oh, I did do that already. Um, here's that pin that flip open. Yeah, you'd have to slide it in and out. And that's why I came up with this. Sometimes even if you get something that comes in a 8.5 by 11 little cellophane bag, you can cut a piece of that and just use it. So there are a lot of little workarounds for different things. As far as tatting goes, you do want for design at least 2 shuttles. If you're a person who might want to work on 2 different designs, like if you need to set one aside and have an incubation period with it for a while, you might want to start a second one. Or so always, it's good to keep. For me, I like to keep at least 4 shuttles that I use just for designing. And you can use whatever thread you have. Plastic protector open, yes, that works very well, Katia or Katia. Now I'm going to call you both or either. A couple other things before it's getting over an hour. Another thing as a tatter, Moose can, years ago, when we were talking about chains, Mooscan has a chain on her chain sample page, a whole 8.5 by 11 list with samples that she's done of all the different types of chains you can make. I happen to have, because I like to figure out the mechanics of a stitch and how it works. Like I've got different size zigzag chains, and a zigzag chain is different than we'll talk a lot about different techniques. A zigzag chain is different than the zigzag um, pattern you get when you use all half stitches and do maybe 4 first half and then 4 second half, and you start getting that zigzag pattern on the top of the chain. And I think that's, I guess I only have square ones in here, and I use 2 colors so I can see what happens when you transition from one to another. Are there any questions? I'll keep talking while I'm waiting. I also want to show you sometime. Oh, I know. I know some of you have seen this before too. My quirky bird thing came about when this is my watercolor notebook. But I happened to do a class and I noticed that this bird, this was actually, I just followed along a tutorial. Yeah, the chain project I think is kind of like an ongoing project. And this was what I drew. So the basic shape and everything is somebody else's design. I add kind of my own little frills on my birds. And I've realized obviously eyes are hard to do on a tatting design. We'll talk about putting like a bead in for a design or, a small ring. I couldn't decide if altogether this guy looks a little sad. And I want to, this is, I want to do a tree branch and leaves to go with the birds. So we're going to talk about both leaves and designing birds. Anytime in all my classes, I think I'll put my face again. In all the classes I teach, I like to give people a couple choices of things to do. But anytime an idea comes up, if there's something that you just think, oh, I want to try doing this right now, do it. Specific projects aren't required. If your mind takes a different turn for a design, go with that. And we'll talk about that too in class. We'll help each other out. You're learning shuttle slow going. It is at first. So, can anybody think of anything else we could do with birds or leaves or even flowers? Think of something. Any of you go to Tammy's class this week? Think of something we might use these for. Anybody got an idea of what we use our bird or leaves for? I know somebody knows the answer. And just so you people know, I did teach with the online classes, yes. We ended up separating that because of security problems, different things with using mixed media. Yes. How about helix deco with the helix pattern? That that can work. How about the hat that Tammy is starting? The project, the hat. Oh, Birds of Hope. Yes. A spring scene. Yes. My size bird is going to fit in probably, if I do one bird, a 5x7 frame. I maybe do a wide one and put 3 birds in it. And that's what I'm thinking, not just fall leaves, like I think people were thinking before we talked about leaves, but spring leaves. Leaves are year round. Into the center of a doily, yes. But in Tammy's class on, would she hold it on Wednesday? Was that just yesterday or the day before? Anyway, you can use it to decorate your hat if you're making the hat with the online tatting class. And it's funny because I had that of the cat. And I was talking to Tammy about the birds, and she also she mentioned the word cat to me first, and I was just I couldn't hardly get my breath. I couldn't say anything back. We were talking on the phone because it's like I already had the picture of the cat and been thinking about it. She and I do that so much. And I yesterday was Terry's class. Yes, I lose track of time sometimes. So we had thought you can be thinking of the two things together, working on something to decorate your hat, or any of the other suggestions that have been made. Um, I love the idea of mixed media. So whatever you want to do with it, but you could start working on something, even a flower design that you might want to put on your hat. So I think that's about it for today. Um, if you've never worked in a computer drawing class before, you might want to come tonight and just look in and see. You know, even drawing software is set up similar to like Microsoft Word. You know, you've got your menu at the top and you've got tools along the side. And we'll be looking at some very easy um, how to like just make some simple shapes tonight and how to draw lines and things like that just to get started. So we'd love to have you join us there. And I think that's about it for today. Um, if anybody wants to stay for a minute, I want to show you I got a stack of books beside me. And a lot of you have seen this too. I'm glad it was enjoyable, Mary. I hope all the classes are enjoyable. Um, but my first book that I absolutely love for design is, whoops, I'm going to have to go down to my scene. You'll miss class tonight? Okay. I'm going to have to go way back. Of course, is Elgiva Nichols' Tatting, Technique and History. Um, she even has a section that talks about designing with shapes. Um, and what she can do with tatting is just unbelievable. It's a beautiful book. A lot of things about special arrangements of stitches, you know. And another one of my favorite books, these were a couple of my first books ever I got, is Rhoda Alt's Tatting. She does a lot of freeform things, and a lot of it'll remind you of the 70s. Um, and she works with a lot about knotting, and this is like an put on like an applique on the fabric later. So this is a really good book too. And of course, Rebecca, where did I have that? Rebecca Joins, The Complete Book of Tatting. One of my favorites of all time just to browse through is, this is just a Dover publication by Julia Sanders. And this has a lot of old time fantastic designs. Let's see if I can find one of my favorites is the collar. This is all appliqued onto netting. There's your bows. There's needle weaving in the center of this. So she's combined other techniques. There's more there. This, we'll be talking about color. I have a color harmony book that's really, you know, color stuff. Dover books. You don't have to always sketch. Um, this Dover book, Art Forms in Nature, it's plates and it's things like this. I mean, you can get some of the most fantastic ideas. Well, even leaves. Look at the leaf. You can take just even a piece of something and get a shape you like out of it. And most of these books are the Dover books that you buy. Let me see what it says here. I think this book does too. Okay, you may use the designs and illustrations for graphics and craft applications, free and without special permission, provided that you include no more than 10 in the same publication or project. So, you can use these, and they're usually, they have a lot of sales. Dover.com online, a lot of sales. You can even get books with CDs now. This is all butterflies. So there are different ways to go. Another book I have is I don't know if you can read that from there. It's the Dictionary of Needle Art by Therese de Dilmont. And this has got all kinds of needlework. Whoops. In here. But there's a really interesting section of, tassels. Where's the tatting? Oh, that's needle lace. But there's a tatting section in here too. So anyway, lots of books to look at, lots of things. And next week, we'll start going into detail about a design. Think about a design. Book of Snowflakes, yes. So think about what you'd like to design. Even though if you can't draw, you might sketch a few things or just do brainstorming, like writing down things in a list on paper, possibilities, make a list maybe of techniques you'd like to try in it. Make stick figures if you need to, just whatever. Think about what you might want to make, and we'll start in again next week. You want to learn Inkscape? Yes, I do use it. In the beginning, because I learned Illustrator, I always used to use Adobe Illustrator. But Inkscape is wonderful and it's free. And every year they upgrade it and add more things to it. So I hope that you can come, or if not, watch replays and think about design, even if you're a beginning tatter, because um, beginners can start learning. Because when you start learning, you can think about what stitches, what you're using and how they're used and the formation. So I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Bye bye for now. Bye. You're welcome, everybody. Thanks, Nanetta. I know you've heard a lot of this before many times, and we've had such wonderful discussions in the past. Oh, thanks, Katia. I'm glad to be back too. And Aurora, thank you. Mavis, I look forward to having you working on things.